So Space Vidcast is my husband and I, and we have weekly live shows every Thursday at 2 a.m. Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, or GMT for those of you who refuse to talk about UTC. And we talk about space with an emphasis on human spaceflight. And when we are not on, we are showing NASA TV 24/7 because that's how they broadcast. So if you're not in the US or can't get NASA TV inside of the US, you can watch it online at spacevidcast.com. It's kind of a crazy little thing we like to do. We also like to go down to Florida, Kennedy Space Center, and broadcast from the press site the different shuttle launches, any other launches we can get our hands on, any sort of footage from ESA or JAXA or anything like that. And then these crazy little conferences called Space Up. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we try to get to as much different or as many different conferences and just spacey events that we can. We're from Minneapolis, Minnesota, so we're sort of centralized, which is kind of nice because then we don't have to fly from like California to Florida to New Mexico or anything like that. We kind of have this sort of mid-country center base, if you will, and we just like to cover as many different spacey things that are going on, just trying to get the word out, trying to get people excited about space.
How did this all begin for you?
As I like to say, it's my husband's fault. We had been working with a company that wanted to do podcasting, so the two of us were podcasting and having a great time with it, and the CEO kind of just didn't like the direction it was going, so he decided to shut it down.
What was the podcasting about?
It was about technology, which is really great because a lot like space, actually, but with technology, there's always something new every single day. Whether it's a new iPhone rumor or whatever it is, there's always something to talk about. So we had these sort of hour-long broadcasts 5 times a week. Like, it was just a ridiculous amount of time we were putting into it, but it was really cool and it was growing really fast. This is back before Leo Laporte and back before Callie Lewis and before Chris Pirillo and that kind of thing. So it was a really kind of crazy, weird, wild time of just 2 kids trying to do a podcast. But our CEO just kind of didn't see the brilliance out of it. He personally wasn't getting anything from it, so he figured that nobody else was either. And because my husband is so good at turning in receipts and getting reimbursed for these things, once the podcast was shut down and we had all of this equipment, he said, we should do something with it. And I said, yes, eBay. And he said, no, really, I think we should start our own podcast. And I said, all right, that doesn't sound too bad, and we can do it 5 nights a week. That would just, it kills everything. What do you want to do? He says, I was thinking space. And I said, why? And he goes, space, it's so cool, and it's neat, and who doesn't want to be an astronaut, and all of that fun stuff. And I said, yeah, nobody cares. We're not going back to the moon. Like, that's a ridiculous idea. Anything that could ever be said about space has already been said. It's a dead topic. This is dumb. And he said, fine, well, I'm going to do it by myself then. If you don't believe in it, I'll just do it on my own. I said, yeah, well, good, you do that then. And he did 1 show all by himself, good boy, after a shuttle launch. I want to say it was 125, but I could be wrong.
Somewhere along there was a bed involved?
Kind of. I told him that when, he had nothing else to talk about, that he could come back to me and we could do a real podcast, like about Lost. The TV show. Brilliant. I had a lot of forethought at the time, and he said, "Fine. I'm just going to make this go." And I watched his broadcast, and it was terrible. It was terrible. And then people kind of laugh at that. And I said, "But you don't understand. We had just already been doing all of this podcasting. I knew the dynamic between the two of us. I knew how we worked well together. I knew how we had this audience because of the two of us. And him on his own was crap. I love you, honey." But it was bad. And I said, you need me just to make this interesting. You need me just to bounce things around and off of each other, with the lag time between what you say and when something gets reacted to in the chat room. It wasn't enough. You can't say, and so then he said, and wait for an answer. It doesn't work very well. I said, but you promise me when we have nothing else to talk about, which I gave it about 3 weeks, when we have nothing else to talk about space, we will stop this because it's stupid and we will do something real. And he said, yes, honey, when we have nothing left to say about space, we will stop we will stop this podcast. And I said, good. And we shook hands, which in Minnesota, apparently, a verbal contract is still a contract. So it was totally legal and legit. Shook hands, and it will be 4 years in March that we've been doing this podcast. And I cannot possibly, there are not enough hours in the day for me to talk about it, the amount of spacey things there are to say. It's unfathomable to my prior self. So there you go. That's the story. It's all his fault, as I say. I had nothing to do with it.